Welcome to the AI Business and Innovation Podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Halbert, and today we're diving into a powerful conversation about storytelling, career transitions, and meaningful innovation. Joining us is the amazing Stephanie Horwitz-Ruveni, connector, storyteller, and podcast host of What Should I Do With My Life? With her experience at global innovation hubs like SAP.io, the Paris Center for Peace and Innovation, and HP Tech Ventures, Stephanie has guided countless entrepreneurs and professionals toward impactful and purposeful careers. In today's episode, we'll uncover how storytelling can transform your professional journey, explore the art of building authentic personal brands, and discuss balancing career ambitions with the realities of parenthood and family life. Stephanie, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here.
So, I would love to open up with a general question on storytelling and career navigation. Stephanie, storytelling has been central to your career. Why do you believe storytelling is so critical for navigating career transitions? And what patterns have you observed in professionals facing uncertainty?
All right, let's start with the first question because the mom brain. So, what role can storytelling really play when it comes to the career navigation, career transitions? When you're on the job hunt, you need to obviously market yourself, sell yourself, and tell your story and why you're a fit for that organization, for that role. And someone like me, who I've done a lot of different things. I've worked in nonprofit, I've worked in VC, I've worked in tech, corporate, startup. I've kind of been all over the place. I've done marketing and comms and value creation and operations. And on the one hand, someone like me could feel, oh gosh, I'm all over the place. How do I tell my story and position myself as an attractive candidate? On the other side, it's, well, look at all those things and how do I package it in a way that's adding value to this organization? So with all that hubba jubba I just said about my past, it's embracing the fact, okay, I'm a generalist. I'm a multitasker. I can do a lot of different things. I've worked in a lot of different organizations. I've had experience in XYZ. It's really packaging it in a way that shows you have what it takes and what this organization needs. Part of it is understanding how to tell that story. If your resume is bopping around from lots of different jobs or switching between different industries, it's understanding what is that story. So for me, I've bopped in different industries, but the common thread through them all is the idea of actually storytelling in my case, or communications in my case, whether it's doing a podcast and telling the stories and career stories of folks, whether it's telling customer stories at SAP, startup stories who are working with our corporate clients. So that's kind of been the through line. So it's really important for folks who are navigating their careers to understand, what is that through line? How do I get from here to here? And how do I communicate that in an effective way? And you really have to embrace it. That's a big part of it as well.
Wow, so it sounds like a good general plan of action. For professionals that are feeling stuck, what's your advice for them to help them figure out how to actually apply this in their personal lives? Get ahead.
How to apply the storytelling in their personal lives or their professional lives?
I think so, because I think that it all that if I understand you correctly, that it all needs to tie together, and I feel like a common thread that's lost is that people build up their profiles and they present themselves to their professional world in a way that's incongruent with who they truly are. And I
Mm,
don't know if in my experience now, I'd say
mm.
I don't know if that's really possible. If you're able to really tell a story effectively with that incongruency.
Well, that's really interesting. I see. I mean, I'm all about trying to be real. That's a big part of me and my personal brand and just how I am. I'm pretty unfiltered. I say things generally how they are. And that's something I bring in my personal life, in my real life, and then also when I'm professional and on the LinkedIn. And I think that, like, to what you're saying, a company who's looking to hire can kind of see that difference between the personality and what this person's really like and what's going on in their personal lives versus how they're presenting on LinkedIn. And I think there's a lot of phoniness out there. And I think it's really challenging because we're all trying to say why we're the best or why we're the expert or what we're doing. And it's, to be honest with you, it kind of conflicts with each other, because if you're someone in your personal life who you're shy, you keep to yourself, you don't like to brag or boast. On LinkedIn or on social media or in a professional sense, there's this pressure to put yourself out there and show what you're doing and show that you're a thought leader and show that you're an expert. So I imagine that's extremely challenging for people. And my advice would be, on the one hand, you do want to put yourself out there to create a personal brand. That's really important in this day and age. And on the other hand, don't stray too far from who you are. So if you're an introverted, shy person, I don't expect to suddenly see you on LinkedIn having all these pictures of you like, bah, bah, I don't know, just the pictures and the way, the tone in which you're writing, or a video in which you're sharing, in which you're coming off as pompous or know it all or this expert. But it's really important to stay true to you. And I think the best way to do it is to do it in a way that feels okay. I think a lot of people are uncomfortable with posting and putting themselves out there, yet it kind of feels like in this day and age you have to position yourself in this way. And I think it's like, I'm thinking of this as I'm talking, like an ick meter, like ick. Like if I'm posting this, how icky do I feel about myself and how I'm presenting myself? Do I feel like, yeah, I don't love posting on LinkedIn, but I feel good about this content. It pretty much lines up with who I am, versus, oh God, that is so not me. Like this is just not in line with my values and who I am. So that was a pretty run on answer. And I think it really just depends on the person, what they're comfortable with, and don't force it, because if it'll feel forced and people will see it and people will see it's not natural and it's not really you. So it's kind of finding that, it's like that delicate dance. And yeah, I'm positive a lot of people struggle with it. And I also do.
So, like you've hosted a lot of interesting conversations on your podcast. What should I do with my life? And I figured that you must have run into some guests that went through this transition in a way that would be relevant to this conversation. Could you maybe think of a couple examples?
I mean, I think one of the biggest, I think in this world we're living in right now, there's this element of fake it till you make it. That psychology, there's that research finding that has to do with psychology, that if you make a big power pose and take up a lot of room, it's actually going to boost your confidence. So it's recommended that before a big speech or before, a big job interview, you take up a lot of space. You do these like Superman power poses in the mirror. And I think there's something there. Hold on. I totally just started. I totally just lost my train of thought, Daniel. Wait,
Yeah, I know. I get
pause.
what you're
No,
saying.
wait, wait, wait.
Let
Wait,
me
wait,
let me
wait.
let me bring you back with.
No, I know what I wanted to say.
Okay, cool.
The fake it till you make it element is something that I found in a lot of conversations I've had with highly, highly successful people, that in the right now today we need to present ourselves as these experts, and that we know. And what I found in talking to people of from all different industries and all different careers, whether they're lawyers or entrepreneurs or photographers, or the list goes on, people who've led major career transformations, none of them know what they're doing. And I think that's very comforting. And there's something in that, because a lot of people feel alone in that, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. Oh God, I just got hired for this job. I don't know how to do this. They're going to find out I'm a fraud. This imposter syndrome, we all have it. So something I've really found is that it's everywhere. Almost everyone's dealing with it. I wish we weren't, but it should give us some comfort in that everyone's trying to figure it out. And even the big wigs and the big head honchos who are at the top figured it out on the way. They figured it out as they go.
Okay, so I want to ask a question on behalf of all of the immigrants and refugees in the world that would benefit from understanding how they could adjust their experience and know-how from where they came from and enter into the new world. I feel like I
Yeah.
saw it a lot in Israel with the Russian immigration, where you had people with very high levels of competence, scientists, doctors, lawyers, and there were no jobs available for them, so they had to take on blue collar work.
Hmm.
So I wonder if we could come up with a better way to help people to find the right job and to make the right adjustment calibration between who they were and who they need to be to fit in with the place they're living now.
Well, I think that's where the storytelling comes in a major way. I feel like right when I got out of the army, which was like um 11 plus years ago, it was like you need Hebrew to find a job. Now I feel like today you need English to find a job. So I think if you're moving to a new country, you everything is so globalized now, especially in Israel. They're looking for Italian speakers, they're looking for Russian speakers, they're looking for people of all different backgrounds. So now's the time to actually embrace it and utilize it and bring it, not necessarily language, but bring that skill or that experience from where you were and show how you can apply it in this way. I mean, we all know that organizations, the most innovative organizations and the ones that succeed are the ones that have, that are the most diverse. And an organization where everyone is the same and everything is the same is not going to succeed. So it's a matter of understanding, what are my unique skills here and how do I bring them to this job, and look at it as an asset instead of something negative.
Is there something about the inner dialogue that a person has to have in order to actually succeed?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, you have to. I really, again, believe in this fake it till you make it. Sometimes you just have to do that to get the confidence. If you don't have the confidence yourself, you fake it till you make it. You ask your friends, your peers, your family, what qualities do I have that make me stand out in this way? You can literally ask a handful of friends, 3 friends, 5 friends. I'm applying to a job in XYZ. What do you think it is about me that would make me a good candidate? Sometimes it's hard for us to look in the mirror and see ourselves and understand why we would be a good fit. Sometimes it helps to get the input from others to understand what they see in you. And yeah, for a lot of people who are shy or maybe don't have a lot of self-confidence, in addition to getting the feedback from others, it is important to make some time, sit down with a pen and paper, and think about, what skills do I have? What can I bring here? What makes me unique? What am I good at? And it's not even necessarily what you like, it's what am I good at? People tell me I'm good at this. What is it? How could I make money off of that? How could I make a business out of that? How could I add value to another organization with that skill? So it's a mixture of the introspection as well as getting feedback from others if you need that little push to help with the confidence and the belief in self.
Do you hear people saying that you, oftentimes, in order to succeed in your career, you need to sacrifice your own spirituality or beliefs or values? It sounds kind of like daunting and makes the way that the corporate world works seem a little bit, let's say, like it has a dark side. How do we speak to people? How do you speak to people that are really worried about how they're going to fit into that context when they're, let's say, really spiritual or really concerned and considerate for values that may disagree with the kinds of things that they've been asked to do in the workplace on some level?
Well, first of all, I think it's not just the big corporates that have this dark side. I think almost every organization has its own dark side, no matter how mission driven, value based, happy company culture it might be. So I think anyone and everyone need to watch out, do their due diligence, do their research, speak to people within the organization. I think a lot of people, yes, do end up sacrificing their sanity, their spirituality, their personal lives for the work. And a big question people need to ask is, what role does work play in my life? Am I working to pay the bills? Am I working because I want to have a super meaningful career that fills me up and makes me feel really good? Why are you working? Is it worth it putting yourself through this hell or whatever it might be? Is it something I literally have to do because I have to survive? Or is it something that I think, what looks good on the resume? Oh, if I just survive at this sexy named company for 1 year, I'll get a foot in the door. I think it's important to look at the end goal. What's the end goal here? What's the end game? Am I doing this as a means to an end? Why am I here? And I think if you are a spiritual person and a values based person, you're going to have to do your homework to understand the company culture, to understand what is the balance like. Is there a work life balance? How do you fit into it? Who are the people you can relate to? Or if you're really good at compartmentalizing, can you just clock in, do your job, get done what you need to get done, and clock out at the end of the day and live your life?
What advice do you have for people that simply don't have enough resources to wait it out until they find the dream job?
Absolutely. I think that it's a privilege to be able to try and find a dream job. Most people work because they have to, because they need to make a living and pay the bills and take care of their families and themselves. I think if you are in a job that you don't love, but you have to be in it, you should look for those few things in the job itself that you really like and that you do enjoy, even if it's just 20% is stuff you like and 80% is stuff you don't like. What is that 20%? How do you hone in on that 20%? How can you actually make that 20 a 30%, a 40%? How can you bring more and more value in that sliver of the work that you do like and show your manager and communicate about your successes and what you're doing? That's within the workspace. And of course, do you have any time to do a side project? Can you do a side hustle? Do you have a passion? Is there something you like doing that can fill you up on the side? Do you like volunteering? Does it make you feel good? Can you commit to every Sunday when you're not working or wherever, wherever you are in the world? Can you commit to doing something that will fill you up and that this job doesn't just define you? But there are all other elements of your life and world that can fill you up in a different kind of way. So I think it's looking at what can I do within the job, or are there people in the job that you really like? Like, let's say you hate most people, but there's that one guy that you guys work so well together. Can you do more projects with that person? Can you come up with can you pitch some ideas to your team where, oh, I'm going to end up working with this person more because we work really well together. I enjoy it. We bring value together. Look at it inside the organization and then look at your life and see what can you do. And you know what? The passion project or the side hustle could eventually turn into a real business. And a lot of people in my podcast, that's what happened. They just started something as a hobby on the side. They were doing a different job they didn't necessarily love. And then the side project actually took off and turned into a business, a full-fledged, full-time job.
Well, that's interesting. Now, let's say I find myself, I'm working in a company, my job is something that it's disconnected from my own story that I have for myself, because I had to go through this process of like whitewashing my resume in order
Mm,
to fit
mm.
some generic role that requires some generic set of requirements. So now I'm in the cafe area, I'm in like the food area in the office, and I'm meeting the other workers. And they're asking me about myself. What am I supposed to say to them? I've got like two stories going on here. I've got like the story that's my resume, that's the one that got me here. That is the reason that I'm here. And then there's the other story, which is the authentic me that I actually would love to speak about and connect with everybody else, but it has very little, if anything, to do with the job that I'm clocking in, because I just need to pay the bill.
I mean, I always think it's better to just be your authentic self. And I think people have lives outside of work, except if you watch Severance. I don't know if you watch Severance. Such a good show. Highly recommend. It's all about your work life and totally separated, severed from your personal life. I always say be yourself. And that's actually way more interesting. And I think that'll get you more opportunities. Like, I think networking, I mean, in general, navigating your career, whether it's inside the organization you're in or when you're looking for a job, networking is the most important thing. Being able to connect with people is the most important thing. So if you're just talking BS about stuff you don't care about and the whitewashy stuff on your resume, chances are people are going to be like, yeah, this guy's full of it. And hey, so am I. If you are real and talk about yourself and, oh, my family this, and oh, I just moved here, and oh, I just went to this amazing restaurant last night. Have you been? Real conversations. That's also what makes teams work better. I mean, you need to be open and authentic and real and connect, and the connection builds the trust, because kecholche, like in Hebrew, so long as you are just giving this kind of LinkedIn version of yourself, you're not real. People are going to feel it. They're going to think you're a phony. They're not going to be able to connect with you, and they're not going to trust you. And they need to know you. You have to show some vulnerability. So there is trust. And so there's a realness. And I know every organization and company is different and the culture is different everywhere, but I think it's really, really important to find at least one person wherever you're working that you can connect with, you can let the walls down, and you can be real with. And I think that's what makes work fun. And I think if you're miserable in your job and everyone's all this, you know, this LinkedIn facade, whatever, it's going to be so much better, and everyone's going to enjoy themselves more if they tone it down a notch and they're just more real.
Sounds like good advice to me. Let's move on to a question related to innovation and community building. At SAP.io and the Paris Center for Peace and Innovation, you were instrumental in fostering innovation ecosystems. What do you think truly allows startups and entrepreneurs to thrive within larger innovation communities?
Yeah. So a chunk of my experience is working in kind of an innovation bubble within a larger corporate context, like at HB Tech Ventures and at SAP, where we were kind of the innovation branch. And it was kind of like a startup within this huge corporate organization. And my biggest advice to entrepreneurs or startups who are trying to work in an innovation ecosystem, especially with these big monster corporates, is get ready. Like, you need to be patient and flexible and flex your frustration muscle, because you're coming from a startup where it's wild, wild west and everything's everywhere and things move really fast. And you're trying now to work closely with a large organization. Maybe it has 100,000 employees, 200,000 employees, maybe it has 400,000 customers. You're suddenly inserting yourself into their processes. They're not going to work fast like you do. There's going to be a lot of red tape you have to go through. There's going to be a lot of people you have to go through. So my advice would be expect it to be slow. My other advice would be map your people. Who's Learn the who's who in these huge organizations, because obviously these innovation ecosystems have different reasons, whether it's a VC and they're trying to invest in these startups, or whether you're doing some kind of corporate partnership or an app integration. You need to understand the who's who. And these are big Monty organizations with huge org charts. So understand who you need to be talking to. How do you get there? Can you make things faster by going to this person? So patience, persistence, and people mapping, those three P's, I think are really critical, specifically for startups who want to partner with these big corporations and be part of their innovation ecosystems, because otherwise you're going to be so frustrated because it really does move slowly. There's red tape and it's a totally different pace than whatever the startup itself is working at.
Can you share one memorable example of successful community-driven innovation from your experience?
Community driven innovation.
Like, for example, some innovation hub or group existing within a larger organization that collaborated in an effective way and were able to succeed on their project, like some
Yeah. I mean, I think, of course, I mean, I think when I was working at SAP.io, a huge, very important factor was inclusivity and diversity in terms of startup founders. And I'm rusty on the numbers. I don't remember, but there was a very significant percentage of founders who were either minorities or women. And that ultimately helps all of us succeed in the long run. In terms of the startups themselves and their success rate, as well as the impact they're bringing to the larger organization. So that's just one small example of the people and who you're bringing in, and the entrepreneurs you're bringing in, and the companies you're bringing in, and the larger impact they can have.
So that's an interesting angle, and we're talking about how an organization is able to contribute to the quality of the experience for their employee. And so, along those lines, do you have any guidance recommendations for organizations to help them create even more meaningful, purpose-driven corporate culture, office culture?
Yeah, I only just chuckled because I know it's such a challenge, because again, I've worked in a few of these corporations on the innovation side of things. And I don't want to say it's like you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but I think for some of these organizations that are so huge, so bureaucratic, work a certain way, it's really, really hard for them to figure out the innovation side. And often they have this innovation ecosystem that consists of internal innovation, where within that company, they have innovation teams that are developing products. And then they have an external innovation element where they're maybe acquiring startups or investing in startups or doing integrations with these external startups using that technology within their own. I think it's just really challenging. I think it's really challenging because these big organizations want to stay sexy and relevant. It's more affordable and economical for them to work with the startups that already have the technology and integrate it into what they have, as opposed to developing it themselves internally most of the time. But that being said, you have the clashes, the organizational clashes, and the pace in which things are happening. And I don't know the answer, but I think these big corporations are still struggling with it and haven't yet found the answer because, to be honest, those two companies I worked for shuttered operations in that innovation unit that I was working in. So, something didn't necessarily line up, or obviously a lot of big corporations have been having budget cuts and layoffs and impact. And on the one hand, you think, oh, innovation can't be the thing that goes. That's what we need. We need these products to be innovative and answer the needs of the customers. And at the same time, it seems that the innovation projects are getting cut. So I don't know the exact answer, but
Do you
it's a
think that
challenge.
this has to do with the AI?
I mean, it's definitely impacting everyone in some way in shape or form. And you can cut jobs and integrate AI or find just one AI solution that could have been multiple startup solutions. So it's definitely affecting everything, absolutely, in terms of jobs and in terms of how companies are staying innovative.
Yeah, it's funny because like I think that innovators are using AI as well to like refine their own innovations. So I didn't think about it, but it could be like a really strong use case for AI replacing people, since AI can offer recommendations for innovation for people to improve the qualities of the conditions without the AI itself having any needs or requirements of its own. And also the biases, okay, of course there are biases, but the biases are predictably artificial.
Right. Well, it's just funny because now I'm thinking that so many, big tech companies and corporates have these AI teams. And it's literally like teams of people that are pushing AI in the company and, in charge of AI in these projects. And it's like, oh my God, they're working so hard on this. And in 2 years, they're not going to have that unit doesn't exist anymore because whatever they're developing is going to take over.
Or maybe they're the only ones that are going to exist. I think that you just identified everyone's trying to figure out who the red squirrel is in the
Mm,
company. Who's the one, or which subgroup is going to be responsible for the transition of employment from this area to a different
hmm.
one? If you are pumping out AI solutions that are creating redundancies in the systems, effectively you're improving efficiency by reducing the number of moving parts. I mean, you're not saying that you're going to be replacing people, but you're simply saying that we see on paper, we see that the metrics are suggesting this problem. We see an AI solution that can solve it. And they're not indirectly, enough problems are solved. And then you have a person that shows up to work one day and they don't have anything to do,
Right.
maybe anymore. Or what if you're somebody that's up in the hierarchy has a bad interaction. They have an uncomfortable interaction with somebody in the department, and they say, "To heck with this! I'm just gonna go and talk to ChatGPT for 30 minutes every day, and I'm gonna tell my boss that I just solved the problem because we don't need a person. We just saved tens of thousands of dollars a year. Problem solved."
It's what's happening. It's what's happening.
So what's going on here? I mean, is this a crisis?
I mean, I think my husband is all about AI. He's a software engineer and he's all about the AI. When I say the AI, I feel like I'm an 80-year-old woman, a grandma, really. I'm trying to use it. I think there's a lot that it can help with. And it's a matter of how do you use it correctly on a personal level, on a professional level, organizationally. And actually, it's not just like what comes to mind isn't just, oh, AI is replacing us. Like I used to make a joke at the Paris Center when I was a guide at the Paris Center talking about innovation. I would make a joke that, oh, come in 5 years and I won't be here. It's going to be a robot giving your tour. Haha. And that's like a very real, possibility. But that at the end of the day, no one can replace human interaction, human emotion, emotional EQ, emotional intelligence. And I think not just on the organizational level of how it can potentially take over, whether it's writing jobs or social media jobs. Now there's all these AI tools where you don't need a social media manager anymore. You can plug and play with an AI tool. They can come up with the copy. They can use the picture. They can use the scheduler app. They can potentially engage with comments, etc. So just from that perspective, something I see as someone who does content creation and comms and stuff like that. And, just summarizing or a report, you could really plug and play in ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever you're using and get that. But what I think is really important, again, is the personal element. And because now these tools are so widespread, people can detect what went through AI and what a person actually wrote or a person actually said. And I think we're at the end of the day still want to connect and want that authenticity. So it's a delicate dance of, if you're using it to make a post or do an article, people at this point can say, "Oh, that definitely is Chat GPT that wrote that." And you don't want that, because at the end of the day, you want the people and the humanity, or at least I do. So I think it's this very interesting struggle we're in. And my advice, I mean, you didn't ask, but I think like my advice to job seekers and to networkers is to not let the AI take over your personality and who you are, because they can sniff it out and detect it pretty easily if something was just generated by AI or if it's your genuine interest, question, thought, story, etc.
Mhm. Amazing. So let's tie that into how we can identify a successful startup. You supported many startups and entrepreneurs through global accelerators like SAP.io and venture arms like HP Tech Ventures. What key characteristics or actions differentiate the truly impactful startups from the rest?
I think it's really about the team. I think it's the number one is the team and the people and the dynamic and personality. And when you're working really closely with a startup, that LinkedIn persona comes down. That's not what you're getting when you're working really closely with an entrepreneur or working with a startup team. You're getting the real stuff. Beep, the real, you're getting the real stuff, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And it's understanding these people, how they interact with others, their dynamic. Is this the winning team? It's not about the winning idea. It's about the winning team. It's about the winning entrepreneur and that personality. And do they have this charisma, magnetism? Do you believe what they're saying? Do you trust them? I mean, the most important thing, an investor is giving dollars to the person, not to the idea at the end of the day. So the investor needs to trust the person making the pitch. Do I trust you, or are you full of it? And that really goes with everything we're talking about today, because we're talking about the artificial intelligence, what's real and what's not, whether it's AI and using AI in terms of how we present ourselves, whether it's how we ourselves, type up our resumes or our LinkedIn's to look shiny and attractive and like an all-star expert in everything we do. You got to cut the crap. Like, you really got to cut the crap. And I think at the end of the day, investors can see through the crap, and they need to be with someone they trust. And if you're all about the phony and what looks professional and what looks good and what looks sexy, you're not going to get the money. You got to be real.
So being real, the truth, telling a story, being authentic with yourself, it's all related. Being a good storyteller is the key to success in your life. The stories that you tell yourself, you tell others, the way that you integrate those narratives into the activities and conduct of your day-to-day life is the glue that ties it all together. So that's why our voice, our internal voice, our internal dialogue is so essential. And it's often overlooked because when we try to solve problems, we're not often looking inwards. We look outwards to try to figure out what resources are available to address the issue and rectify the problem, without considering that it may be necessary to do an even deeper level of a dive and understand where you fit into that picture, not just in terms of solving the problem, but the actual person behind the solution. How did that person show up to actually fix the problem? That's going to make the difference between whether that was a one-off event that they were able to make a difference and then disappear into the annals of history, or were they able to take that experience and integrate it into their story and use it as a tool to communicate with others and build, not just themselves in terms of the way that they identify with themselves and the way that they can listen to themselves communicating with others, but they're giving the other the opportunity to connect with them in a new and refreshing manner. So your work life, your personal life, your relationships, it's all connected at the end of the day. And it's good to think about all these different areas. And like Stephanie said, it's not a bad idea to sit down with a paper and a pen and just write down what your skills are so that you actually understand what your starting place is, what's your benchmark. So moving into personal branding and thought leadership, you definitely emphasize storytelling as the number one skill for career success. How should someone begin positioning themselves as a thought leader? Especially because today's such a crowded digital space.
Yes. It's so hard because I really feel conflicted about all this stuff. Because on the one hand, it's like really important for everyone right now to have a personal brand. And it feels like we all need to be some kind of thought leader or expert in one way. And on the other hand, it feels like, is it too not accessible, but everyone and their mom, cousin, and dog is a thought leader in something. So I definitely struggle with that and hear like the digital noise of all this crap. And I think it's really about what resonates with you and what are you interested in, what do you want to talk about? Because if you want to be a thought leader or have a personal brand and give some kind of value to your audience, whoever it is, you should like what you're talking about. You should have an interest in it. Just because everyone's talking about AI, so you feel like you need to talk about AI, but you actually don't care about it, it's not going to work. It's not going to translate because someone's going to read that and be like, why is Stephanie posting about AI as a thought leader? She doesn't like AI. She likes dogs. Da, da. And I'm not saying you can't like AI and dogs, but do you know what I'm saying? So I think first of all, it's finding out what do you actually like? What would you talk about? And where can you actually bring your unique experience? I think, again, it's about digging deep, the pen and the paper, thinking about what value do I have that I could share with others? And also part of it with the storytelling as well is the twist. Like, again, often I've looked at myself and my career and my resume and been like, oh gosh, I'm all over the place. I've done so many different things. I don't know what I want. I wish it was easy and I could just say I'm a doctor and I have that one thing and it's easy and I'm the expert, but that's just not me. And instead of feeling shame in it, which I definitely have, I try to embrace it and see the positive. So, what's the positive? For example, with me, I've navigated many different career transitions and I've pivoted from the nonprofit to the VC world and I've been in the startup world and the tech world, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, I have that firsthand experience. That's valuable. There's a lot of people out there who want to, for example, go from the nonprofit world to the venture capital world or to the tech world. I could share my personal experience. How did I do it? What were some of the challenges I faced? What helped me get in there? That's something I could share. So instead of, again, the shame in it, wow, there's actually a lot of lessons here and there's value here that I can give to others. So it's looking in the good, the bad, and the ugly and understanding what lessons are here. What does my unique experience have that I can give to others? And that's really what happened with the podcast. That's really how it started. I openly said, I don't know what I'm doing. And I was actually really self-conscious and scared to tell my boss at the time that my podcast was called What Should I Do With My Life? Because I thought she'd say, oh, she doesn't like working here, or she hates this, or I was very nervous about her reception. And she actually loved it because the reality is, even the people I'm talking to are in their 50s, 60s are like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I don't know what I was doing. I'm still figuring it out. 50 and I just made a big career change. So I'm rambling, but
Yeah, but basically what you're saying is that um, that everybody thinks that it's kind of encouraged to be a thought leader, but when you speak about things that don't interest you, you're not fooling anybody.
yeah.
Furthermore, maybe you don't even have anything that you want to talk about, so maybe you shouldn't.
Right. Yes, you don't. It's so hard because, again, Daniel, I feel like people are, myself included. I've been told this and I'm telling others this as well. Like, personal brand's important. And, having something you can share about is important. And I think what we spoke about before and what we're speaking about now is it's just finding what is that thing and how do you make it feel right? And as long as it's authentic, I think that's what matters. I mean, obviously for stats and algorithm, posting every day, you're posting frequently and commenting, engaging, those things on social media, doing that frequently will help your exposure and your reach. But if it's taken the life out of you and at this point it feels robotic, pun intended, no pun intended, whatever, it translates, like you said. You have to be interested in what you're sharing and you shouldn't push it. And I don't think everyone should be a thought leader, but I do think everyone has something unique in their experience that could be worthy of sharing with others that they could learn from.
So that sounds like the actual worthwhile pursuit is to look for the thing that you actually can share that you feel is worthwhile. And it's something unique to you that is the product of your experience in life and your self-reflection. So to be a thought leader, I mean, we don't specify what you're a thought leader of. And if you want to say you're a thought leader and you're not specifically a thought leader on a topic that's like globally essentially like an important, really big deal, you probably shouldn't even worry about it. Like, it's good to know about things. It's good to have knowledge. It's good to be able to have a good conversation and to be able to extrapolate with logic and reason. However, maybe setting the bar for the average person to be a thought leader is actually a disservice and will create a robotic outcome for people that should be acting much more naturally on their day-to-day interactions.
Yeah, I agree. I think they should just use that exercise. You could have the prompt be, what could I be, in what area could I be a thought leader? But you don't act on it necessarily. You just do that internal work where you sit with yourself, find, what's special about your experience. And if it's in a job interview, that's where you share it. Or if it's just in a conversation with a friend, if it's an audio, if it's a blog post, if it's something you don't even publish, but you just write down and it, you'll always have that. And that's important when we're talking about your story and your narrative and what you're sharing. Because if you can find that value and hold on to it, you'll bring that with you wherever. Not doesn't have to be as a formal thought leader or someone posting and positioning themselves as a thought leader on social media.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's sounds like a good plan. I'm hoping that the viewers are thinking about what it is that they think about that would be important for others to know about that they wouldn't consider common knowledge. We don't need people to walk around like Wikipedia, open source. We need people that have unique information to share and
Mm-hmm.
insights, and they can bring new revelations to our minds through their unique lens on.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
So, just to tie it together on that note, is how can being authentic amplify and increase community engagement? Like, to what degree can actually being authentic with your community cause great outcomes?
I mean, I feel like you could just directly see it in terms of business results and outcomes. People want to work with you because they like you. I was just having a conversation last night at dinner with a friend who's hiring, and she literally said, the resume's great. It's the personality. It doesn't click. It doesn't fit. It's not the right personality. We're not connecting. And obviously, there are places that are going to look at the resume and it's only the resume, and who knows about that company culture. So we were talking about authenticity in terms of like being authentic to your community. And just a personal example. I mean, any job I've ever gotten is from networking and people and meeting people. All the jobs I ever got were literally from relationships I had maintained, nurtured, or a friend of a friend. And that's real. Those relationships are real. So I think being authentic, and there's a lot of like backlash, I think, on this authenticity chat because it's like cheesy and overdone. And everyone's being a bit too, some people are like, you're too quote unquote authentic. You're sharing too much on LinkedIn. Why are you sharing your family on LinkedIn? It's a professional space. Why are you sharing your personal problems on LinkedIn? It's a professional space. So there's definitely kind of this interesting blur and barrier and line when it comes to the personal and professional. But I think that's also part of the authenticity. Like our work life and who we are professionally is just one piece of the puzzle in terms of who we are as people. And I would always just advise to be real. And if you need to apply some kind of filter, like for example, I swear a lot. And on my podcast, I swear a lot. When I'm talking to you, I don't know if you want me to swear. We didn't talk about it yet. I don't know if you bleep things out, but I've been trying not to swear. So I'm still being myself, but I've applied this little filter for the context just to make sure it's appropriate. But at the end of the day, you're still getting me. And so I think that whether you're building a community, whether you own a business, whether you're trying to network, whether you're trying to get a new job, again, people can read through the BS, and sharing and being open and creating this vulnerability makes them trust you, and it makes them more likely to share, open up, and be vulnerable as well. It's very disarming. I mean, before we started recording, you'd spoken about a situation in which you were a little stressed, and then the person on the other side was vulnerable, and that kind of disarmed you as well and helped you relax. And so that's very real. And that's something we can all do in basically any interaction, no matter if we're trying to achieve a business goal or make a new friend.
Hmm. So cool, so smart, and I'm gonna think about this and share it with my friends as well. Um, I would love to close the session to talk about motherhood and career and balance in life. So, because you are uh, a proud mother of a beautiful baby, and this is a really significant part of your life, and for all of humanity. Every time a baby is born, the potential for what could happen after that point is massive, like the ripple effect. So, in that vein, you've experienced significant career transitions alongside becoming a mother, like simultaneously. Can you reflect on how this personal shift influenced your professional perspective and choices?
Definitely. So, something you may not know is actually when I was 6 months pregnant, I started a new job at the IDF Widows and Orphans organization. And that in of itself was something crazy to be interviewing for a job when I was pregnant. And I definitely had in my head, I didn't even think it was an option. I was like, who the hell is going to take me? It wasn't even a possibility because I was doing part time work at the Para Center before. And I felt I really wanted to do full time, continue with the mission driven work. And as a pregnant woman on the job hunt, I truly felt there's just no way. Like, why would I even try? And luckily it worked out and I didn't get in my own way. And you can still convey your worth and your experience and your knowledge and your know-how and why you're going to be good at the job despite it. But I'm confident that countless other women who are pregnant have had that same fear and uncertainty. And my advice is just go for it. Don't let it stop you. Just go for it. And then after having a baby, the decision, do I go back to work? Do I not? Do I stay home with the baby? What does going back to work look like? In what capacity? It's something I'm in the thick of right now. I know ultimately I want to go back to work. Right now, I'm full time with my baby. How do I suddenly just put her in daycare when I go from being with her all the time to not seeing her? Or do I find a part time job? But are there any part time jobs? Are they all only, contract role? I mean, it's confusing and it's very real. And especially someone who hopefully I would like to have more than one child. It's like, is this my life now? How is this going to affect my career? It's very real concerns and challenges I'm dealing with now. And I don't have the answers because I'm in the thick of it right now. And of course I have those worries. Oh God, are they going to not want to take me because they're going to think I'm going to have another baby soon, or they're going to think I'm not available because I'm with the baby, or it's, I don't know how they do it. I don't know how anyone does it. I don't know how mothers who are, everyone's a full-time mom, right? I don't know how working moms do it. And I don't know how, I don't know, do we still say stay at home mom? Everyone who's doing it is maxed out, no matter what you're doing. And the minute you have a child, everything does change and your perspective does change. And also, me as someone who's always on my quest for a meaningful job, now that I have a baby, does it change? Do I still need that meaningful job that checks all the boxes and is the perfect fit for me? Or is it just something that makes me feel a bit like myself, helps pay the bills, and whatever. So everything is kind of shifting, and I'm in the middle of this tornado. So I don't even have the answer. All I have is the honesty of in real time trying to understand what this looks like and the decision to put the child in daycare and start a new job. Do you do part-time? Do you do full-time? How do you balance it? I don't know the answer. I don't know how these mothers do it. I
How is
don't.
it gonna make you feel after you even go through the process? Because it's a little bit forced, right? In other words, you don't in an ideal world, you don't you just you're with your baby and the baby grows up and leaves home, and when the baby goes, that way you don't have to say goodbye.
Well, it depends on the person, right? Because I'm with her all the time. I love being with her. And I also miss being able to talk to you, being able to conduct, I have my podcast. I'm releasing an episode tomorrow, but it's been on a hiatus also because of the war, but also because of time. I don't have time. And I still need those things that make me feel like me and to work with a team and to work with others and to contribute. So I think it really depends on the person of what combo is good for you. I'm trying to figure out, oops, sorry, my phone fell. I'm trying to figure out what combo works for me. And I think haven't yet really returned to the workforce. And I'm sure when I do, I'm really going to confront these challenges firsthand. And I'll probably be talking about it a lot. And I'll probably be hoping that others are talking about it too, because everyone just assumes that you can work and you can be a mom and you can excel in your career and thrive and have a high up position that pays really well while also being there for your baby. I feel like you
But don't
can't do
forget,
it all.
you didn't even mention happiness, being happy, also being satisfied, feeling fulfilled. Like, you're only talking about covering bases because it's a huge undertaking, and a person's shoulders are only so wide. Even if you have a really good, bottle, like that's like a Stanley, right? It's a really good one.
But yeah,
Yeah, look, I'm like Stanley all day. Stanley, Stanley. I'm a big Stanley.
nice.
I'm a Stanley head.
Wow.
I actually even have a kid named Stanley. Can you believe it? So, anyways, I'm just saying that it's certainly going to be very difficult. But I heard you say something that maybe is the next step on your process and could be something for other people to try and track. Which is you're talking about a transition in life. In a transition, by definition, there's been a shift. Something has moved. Some variables now are not where they were, and as a result, you must adjust. Things around you are changing, it's out of your control. So, in that situation, you may find that your habits and behavior beforehand are no longer interesting or relevant, or that you feel, using the word authentic again, it may not feel like your authentic self any longer because you've somehow grown, if you will. In the event, Stephanie, that you find that this new role you took on as a mother fulfills that desire that you have for the meaning in your life, how do you think that would impact the next job that you take on, considering that you may not feel the same need to derive that meaning and fulfillment out of the workplace anymore?
Yeah, I think it would take a lot of the pressure off. I think I've always put a lot of pressure on myself to have this job that is perfect for me. I'm perfect for them. I feel that I'm providing impact. I get meaning out of it. It aligns with everything I'm doing. And I think I'm always going to have that desire. But I've had jobs in the past where it's just a job and it didn't satisfy me. And I'm, to your point, very curious to see if a job that's just a job is just fine. As a mother who has these other elements of my life and meaning that weren't there before. So I'm very curious to see if that's what's going to happen.
So am I. Honestly, I want to track your story. I'm looking forward to being in on your episodes now. You're going to teach me how to adjust. Isn't what that's a song like? Teach me how to Dougie.
Oh yeah, it's a good one.
Teach me how to adjust. Could be a huge banger. Cool. So I think that we definitely covered a lot of really important topics. At the end of the day, there's a strong connection between the stories we tell ourselves, the stories we tell others, um, what it means to be authentic with ourselves. It's a conversation that people say is overdone, but I think that after today, we could agree It's a conversation that isn't had often enough. And as a result of that, authenticity is more of a mystery than it ought to be for the average person. Thank you, Stephanie, for helping us reveal some of the deeper and more nuanced elements of storytelling and what it means to be authentic and engaged in the world. I wish you a huge congratulations on your baby. Wishing you much health, happiness, and success in all your future endeavors. Staying in touch and following your journey. Please share any shout outs or anything you'd like our viewers to check out.
Yeah, so after a bit of a well, first of all, thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun and I felt very rusty, so it was good to kind of use my brain a little bit in this way. Hopefully I was coherent and hopefully whoever's listening found some nuggets in what was shared. You can definitely listen to my podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. It's called What Should I Do with My Life? And new episode is coming this week actually. And a career focused podcast talking to different folks about why they do what they do, normalizing the fact that none of us know what we're doing with their lives and we're all trying to figure it out and that it's okay. And just trying to share stories of people who've done interesting things with their lives. And hopefully it gives you some feeling of inspiration, community. Hopefully you learn, hopefully you laugh. Yeah.
All right. Stephanie's gonna be keeping it real on her podcast. She had to filter herself to make it a little bit more family friendly over here. Over there, you get over there and you got the real scoop on
F
what's
bombs.
going on. She's gonna be carpet bombing the field with
Oh,
F bombs.
God.
She's got a baby now. She's gonna once the baby's listening. Okay, Stephanie, thank you so much for your time, and looking forward to following up with another session where we get to hear about your adventures and experiences.
Thank you so much.